I'm John McLaughlin with a special Freedom Update as we introduce you to one of the secret weapons in the fight to keep the Second Amendment here, not just in Iowa, but across the country. Joining me from the eastern section of the country, Jared from Guns and Gadgets. And Jared, first of all, we really appreciate you mentioning this fight we have in Iowa. For a dozen years, we've been trying to get a constitutional amendment to protect 2A. Iowa, as you mentioned, one of 6 states currently that doesn't have that in the state constitution. So just a big shout out, number one, for letting other folks outside of Iowa know what's going on here.
Well, thank you. First off, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, and the honor is mine. You know, it was interesting. It was when the first time I heard about this initiative, like you said, it's been going on for a long time. When I started to research it, I didn't realize exactly how long it was going on. And I was shocked to see that Iowa is one of those few states that doesn't have in their state constitution the enshrinement, the protection of the Second Amendment. And I'm glad y'all are to this final stage, because you don't want to be associated with those other states that don't have it, because they're pretty bad.
Yeah, California, my Iowa, no thanks. We'll pass on that. So what this does is it basically, just affirms our fundamental right. And if you read the language at all, when we started working on this, it was, long before the Bruin decision. So we put in the words, any changes had to be subject to strict scrutiny. And the naysayers are using that now to say, oh, we're going to be basically going to the prisons and handing out Glocks to everybody because everybody gets a gun. Have you seen anything like that in any other state that has a constitutional amendment that protects the Second Amendment?
Zero. In fact, states like Iowa, when they went constitutional carry, states that have gone, the final step, the actual opposite happens. Crime goes down because, if I'm going to do something bad, I'm going to rob a store. The last thing I want is 20 of those patrons to pull a gun on me. So the ability for people to do things lawfully tends to make criminals think twice about what they're doing.
I just got off a TV interview with a station in Omaha, and they basically tied this amendment to the Uvalde, Texas school shooting, saying, well, if you're making gun laws tougher to enact, the common sense, as they say, aren't you going to see more school shootings? And I'm like, no, we're the ones that want to keep schools safe. And the best way to keep schools safe is to keep the bad man off campus. And if he gets on campus, get somebody on him like immediately, not in 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, the anti-gunners right now, especially we're less than a week and a half from the elections, they're really, really scared right now because they're going to lose some key ground. And the Bruin decision, like you mentioned earlier, it's just destroying the anti-gun narrative for the last 30 years, where most of the laws that were put on the books were done off of emotion. They weren't done off of the Constitution. And the Bruin decision is just eviscerating that. And we're winning at a regular rate. And it's nice to see for a change.
Now, when I interviewed the New York State Rifle and Pistol folks, they were all excited, and it was just days before New York started to do the dirty deeds again, basically raise the middle finger to our Supreme Court. What's going on with all that? Are we going to continue to just have to challenge over and over with GOA and NRA and all the different groups getting back in the fight to basically make the states do what the Supreme Court has said?
Yeah, well, the easy answer to that is yes, we're going to have to stay on them, because when we rest on our laurels, that's when we lose ground. We can never go on, the defensive as far as our rights, any right, whether it's the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 10th, doesn't matter what amendment it is, because when we stop fighting for it is when it gets chipped away. New York, they're fighting. Yeah, we've already had a judge say that everything is unconstitutional. They're waiting for the case that's coming up next month. For the injunction. But I think what New York is doing is actually going to strengthen the Bruin decision, because there's a very good chance it will be fast-tracked to the Supreme Court. And I'm sure Clarence Thomas, and I don't know him personally, but I did used to live near his mother. I do know that he doesn't take kindly for people not listening to any type of jurisprudence. So this could be very entertaining to watch.
Have you followed at all, like what Hawaii's doing? I think last time I talked with the Hawaii Firearms folks, there was only like 1 permit in the whole state, and they're just slow rolling the Bruin decision again.
Well, they have picked up. At the last thing I saw, there was like 17 issued, and there's 4. If I remember right, there's 4 counties in Hawaii. 2 of them have started or at least started taking applications, and 2 of them have not. They've actually made it difficult to do that. So Young v. Hawaii is going to help out with that. That has been, GVR from the Supreme Court granted certiorari, the decision vacated, and then was remanded back to the Ninth. And the Ninth Circuit right now is hit or miss, but I think that the Bruin decision kind of ties the hands of the liberal judge, even to do some of the crazy stuff they wanted to do before, because now the only test is text, history, and tradition.
Absolutely. And what you mentioned a minute ago is really important. So Iowans, as you vote on this, whether you're voting by mail, early, or day of, when this passes, and we're pretty confident it will, that does not mean this is the end of the fight. We can't just sit back now and think, okay, we've won all these battles. We've got, we went from shell issue to constitutional carry, now the Second Amendment, and just sit back because we'll end up, defensive in a hurry.
Absolutely. It's a game, it's a political game, and the parties in power are in it for the long haul. They are very creative. They have been for a long time. This has been a play for, decades, not just a couple of years. So the second they see that we're not on top of our game, they will take advantage of it. So get out and vote, in numbers for this to enshrine the right that you already have. Just get it in your state constitution so that generations going forward know what their right is. It's in black and white, and just to correct things. It should have been like that from the very beginning anyway.
Absolutely. So you can be found, I watch you on Rumble, but you're on YouTube, Guns and Gadgets. What is your, you went from law enforcement into basically updating us sometimes multiple times a day on everything 2A related that's going on in the country. Where did that passion come from?
Well, when I was very young, I grew up in the housing projects of Worcester, Massachusetts, and I got to see a lot of things people probably shouldn't, and many people probably haven't in their lives. And I realized at a very young age, the value of being able to defend yourself and not depending on people to drive to you from varying distances away to take up your fight for you. And then as I grew into my career and got to see people who were victimized when they probably would have benefited from being able to defend themselves, it kind of solidified that. And I was always somebody who would read every law on the book just so I could have well-rounded knowledge of my job. Mm-hmm. And when I started to see exactly how the laws were written, especially ones that are coming out to restrict our rights and what is really the meat and potatoes of the bill, I realized not a lot of people knew how to translate that old English and really what it understood. So I started telling people by word of mouth, and it started, people started calling me regularly. And then I got into this thing on YouTube when I was hurt, blew out my shoulder, and was at home, and my son held up an iPhone and just started doing some news briefs out of Massachusetts, and it took off, and it led to this thing that we're doing today.
This is totally off topic, but have you ever met Mac and Stav from She Equips Herself there in Massachusetts?
No, I haven't had a chance to bump into them yet. We've been to a couple of the same events, but not at the same time. I do would like to meet both of them soon.
Yeah, good people. Anyway, they share your passion for the fight on this. So let folks know if they want to get the secret ingredients like we have watching you all the time to keep us aware. We keep track of Iowa pretty close, but you're constantly updating us, on the changes that are coming up with our AR pistols and other information. How can folks follow you and really keep up to date and get involved in the fight when needed?
The easiest way is to find me on YouTube, Guns and Gadgets. I'm also on the main social medias, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I try to put out information, like you said, at least twice a day. I don't take days off often, just because the attack is always on us. There's always something coming in every state. They're always trying something. So I'm trying to get it out constantly. And if you want to get involved, you want to help, the easiest thing to do is to get in the know. Know what the facts are. Do a little research on yourself. I always will link the bills I'm talking about so that you can read it on your own, and then start talking to people about it. Change hearts and minds with conversation. And it's a skill we've lost in the last couple generations, to be able to talk to people, even if we don't see eye to eye. Another good way is to take people to the range so they can actually see that, the gun is not going to, make them a criminal, that they can actually have fun shooting a gun, learn how to protect themselves. You empower people with knowledge. And if we do that more often, we're going to have a lot easier time defending our rights, because what the anti-gunners fear is we, the people. As catchy as that sounds, when we're all on the same page, we're very difficult to defeat.
Absolutely. And as a certified meteorologist for about 30 some years, I want to just thank you for what you did after the hurricane in Florida, jumping in your car, rolling down there, and being of service to your common man.
Oh, thank you. It means a lot. And some people down there really need our help still. So if you can, help people out, whether it's donations to companies, to families that are still in need, try to help out our fellow American. That's what it's all about. And I just happen to, be put in a position because of Guns and Gadgets where I could help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Brother, thanks for joining us on short notice. Thanks for your support of what's going in Iowa, and we'll keep watching.
It's my pleasure. Let me know how else I can help going forward, and good luck, y'all.
All right. Thank you, sir.